Let's be honest, everyone wants great hair. And one of the biggest things I wanted with my hair was for it to start to grow. My hair tends to grow out and not longer. And so this company Prose approached us and was like, hey, I want to sponsor your podcast. And I was like, hey, let me try your product. So I headed over to prose.com, Prose.com. And I took this crazy online quiz they have where they ask you a bunch of questions about your hair. Literally every question they could ask you about your hair goals, what you want out of your hair is in this quiz. And then they give you these amazing results where they create a custom shampoo and conditioner based on your personal hair analysis and their algorithm. Their online quiz dives into every conceivable factor that affects your hair health, and they have over 50 billion formula combinations. So your result is unique to you, which is amazing. And also, by the way, if you're vegan, gluten-free, or whatever, they can totally accommodate you. So the customization experience goes beyond the initial quiz. And guess what? Today, you get 15% off. I've noticed a big change in my hair, and especially because I dye my hair all the time. People are like, how is your hair so healthy? Well, I've been using this and it's been really fun and really great. And I feel like my hair is actually finally growing longer, not just out. So if you head over to prose.com, prose.com/worst, WORST, you get 15% off of your order today. It's so cool. The bottles come with your name on them, with what's in them, when the best use by date is, and this really cute little packet full of all the information. For instance, mine had fermented rice water on it to smooth my hair, plant collagen and lilac and hyaluronic acid for fiber repair, plum oil for nutrition, a shine activator of apple cider vinegar and caviar lime. I mean, it's just so cool. They really go in depth for you. So if you're interested in taking your hair to the next level, head over to Prose, Prose.com/worst, WORST, for your 15% off today. Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to this episode of Worst First. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, because you can never be too clean down there, if you know what I mean. Well, hello, don't have to deal with that anymore, because Manscaped has you covered with the new Lawnmower 4.0 body trimmer with the ultra smooth package. It's right in time for Father's Day, so whether you're shopping for your dad, your husband, your boyfriend, your brother, your father, your dog, whoever, cat daddy, whoever, someone like this needs the gift of grooming and hygiene. Manscaped will take care of you. We have all the right tools to get the job done quickly, safely, and hygienically. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is now available in the USA and Canada. It's optimized so that it is waterproof so your man can groom in the shower. You don't have to worry about cleaning up those messes anymore. It's a 7,000 RPM trimmer that features skin-safe technology to help reduce, manscaping accidents, because those always happen. And guess what? It's got a little light just in case you end up in the dark. So what you're going to do is you're going to head over to Manscaped.com and get 20% off. Yeah, that's right. 20% off plus free shipping with code WORST at Manscaped.com. So one more time, get that 20% off. I'm telling you, I use this for my husband, smoothest balls of his life. Manscaped.com, Lawnmower 4.0, just in time for the holidays. 20% off plus free shipping for your dad, your brother, your dog daddy, your cat daddy, anybody you want with the code WORST, WORST, at Manscaped.com. It's dad bod season. Time to get smooth. We are here, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Worst First. Today I have two very special guests. I have Robert Cohen, MD, who is you do body plastic surgery the most, right? And Ben Talei, who is like the facial to the stars. You like fix people's faces.
I like to put them back to normal.
Hold your mic.
I like to put them back to normal.
He hasn't done my face yet, but we're going to work on that later. I'm dead. I have you. Can you do my face on the podcast?
I told her to bring some super glue. Silly putty.
It's not enough. I'm dead. But no, it's actually so funny because neither of them have worked on me yet, but I did go to a consultation with Robert back in the day. And they are together now at the Beverly Hills Center, which is like the premier plastic surgery center. But I wanted to have you guys on the podcast today because Ben, you have like such an interesting backstory.
Tell me about it.
You tell me about it. I mean, this is so crazy because I've seen you obviously on Instagram. You have to check out their Instagram, both of them, at Ben Talei, BENTALE.
Yeah.
Got it. And then Robert Cohen, MD, Cohen. They both do amazing work. But the interesting thing about Ben is I was talking to him and asking how you became a plastic surgeon. And you were like, oh, well, before I was a plastic surgeon, I was a private investigator.
Yeah, I had a lot of jobs. I actually met this forensic psychiatrist once. I was in med school, and the guy said, he was going around the room saying, why don't you tell us about your lives? And then nobody's talking, and so he's like, okay, Ben, you seem to be the loudmouth who shuts up now. Why don't you tell me about your life? And I'm like, well, Dr. Desai, I'm like, it's a long life. What do you want to know? He goes, well, just tell me chronologically. And I'm like, okay, well, from the beginning, I'm like, I was born in San Jose. And then I go through my life story, which is, I was in San Jose, moved to LA. I started composing music on the piano when I was like 10. I started cooking when I was, 8 or 10. And then when I moved to LA, I worked at a pet shelter. I started teaching piano in high school. I was, when I graduated high school and then started working at Guess in Beverly Center. So
you worked at Guess?
Yeah, I worked at Guess in Beverly
Can you
Center.
imagine someone be like, he's like, can I get you a new size of jeans? Can I fix your face also? Can I?
Yeah, I wasn't there yet.
But that's okay. So you worked at, and then what? And then what happened? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. Then I was at UCLA, and while I was at UCLA, I was a ski patrol in Big Bear. I drove an ambulance. I was an EMT. I was taking different kinds of art classes and all this other stuff, and was still a piano teacher. Then graduated from UCLA probably like a year and a half, so I didn't have anything to do. So I went to Spain for a bit, started like a blood drive thing over there, and then traveled everywhere. And I just wanted to party. I didn't want to go to school yet. So I was a private investigator at that point for a year because it made more money than the ambulance.
Okay, but how does one just become a private investigator? Because I feel like that's something that's like you have to know how to. I feel kind of like I'm a private investigator because my husband likes a girl's photo. I can find everything about her in like 2 seconds, right? You're like, oh, you like that girl's photo? Okay, well, I see that. And let me just go over and find everything about her life story. But back then we didn't have.
No, it's different now.
Instagram, yeah. We didn't have anything like that. So how do you get into it?
First you become a stalker. And then once you're a stalker, then you try to get paid to be a stalker. Or you become an investigator and then you stop telling people about it. Then it's a private investigator. So my cousin was a PI. And when I was like 13 years old, we would go with him. We used to race boats and cars together. So he's the guy who got me into like racing. And so this is what happened. He'd like tell me, hey, Thursday, let's go racing. So we go take the boats, do this offshore race. And then afterwards, he's like, I have this case and you got to come with me. So we go on the case. We'd end up in like Compton or Inglewood or, different places. And he would need me to go get the person out of their house if it's a case he's been on forever. So I'd come up with some story, knock on the door and be like, hi, mister. We're collecting newspapers for our school, and heavy boxes. So you try to. You're
like 25. He's like school.
Yeah, yeah. So no. This is when I was like 13, and so I'd go knocking on these doors and get people to do things. And since I drove an ambulance and I raced cars, I was really good at following people. Because when you're a PI, you have to follow someone 2 cars behind them without them seeing you, and if they pass a yellow light, you're passing a red. If they're in traffic on a motorcycle, you're driving up curbs into shopping centers, jumping out, you have to keep up with them because that's the number one part is not losing them. Once you get through that, the rest is easy. And so I became the best private investigator in the firm, which was Empire Pacific. Empire Pacific is like, it's my cousin's firm and he's the best. And I was the best in his firm.
So what's cases. The biggest thing that people hire a private investigator for?
So it's half workman's comp. So it's half like insurance stuff. And then the other
people who fake injuries who are like, I broke my neck at work. And then they're at like Soul Cycle. Like
yeah. Or like there's this like Persian lady who is a pillar in her community, right? And she works for the government and goes and breaks her back supposedly. And then she gets red flagged because like, oh, she just started working at this and how are you going to break your back? And so they called the insurance company. Insurance company hired us. We follow her. And then 2 weeks later, she's on a retreat. Throwing a fake retreat, by the way, herself scamming people out of money, one of these like bullshit retreats. And so my little brother went with my cousin as participants on this retreat. And I was following her the rest of the time. But there's like things like that. And those are
you take pictures and videos and then you bring it, they bring it to court and go like, this bitch is lying.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know insurance companies did this.
Yeah, all the time.
So guys, don't fake any fucking injuries. Or if you do, commit. Okay. You gotta be like, you gotta be like Leonardo DiCaprio and that shit. You gotta commit. You gotta fully act. You gotta sleep with that neck brace on. You gotta method act it. You gotta live it. Okay. You gotta fuck your girlfriend with the neck brace on. Like, you're not taking it off, you know? Like,
no, we've had people who had like a $10 million lawsuit that was they were already gonna get the money. And this dumbass is this old. She actually lived right here.
It's my neighbor. Yeah, she's like, hey, I remember you used to follow me around. So she lived right here, and I used to have to follow her. It was the worst thing because she would wake up at like 6 a.m. This is during my party days, and I wouldn't want to wake up at 6 a.m. And I'd follow her, and like one day she'd be selling bags, like fake bags, out of a van on like Ventura somewhere. The next day she's in the gym working out. She's supposed to have a broken back. So this was the same lady?
Same lady. And I'd have to follow her everywhere. So to go in the gym, they wouldn't let me in the front. I went and found a bag in my car, ripped a hole in it, put my camera in the bag, and then went and followed her. I went in through the back, went in through the bathroom entrance, came back, put it down on a treadmill and just started, filming her. Or she went to Fry's Electronics and she's picking up these like heavy TVs, big fat lady. And I would just put the camera, in Fry's Electronics, I just put it right in front of her because it's like an electronics store. But people do all that crazy shit.
And she didn't recognize you. Like, this guy's been a lot of places I've been. Like,
strange Middle Eastern.
He bought a Fucci purse out of my bag the other day. Like, now he's here at Fry's in the gym. That's weird.
Yeah, I followed her for months.
That's crazy. So she lost out on the $10 million. Yeah.
And she already had it coming. Like, it was already settled. And they showed this, and then she got a felony charge for fraud. Guys. Yeah. This is crazy.
What about infidelity stuff? Did you have to do a lot of that? Like, what do people pay? Like, just, are you allowed to say, like, what is a normal rate?
It was at that time, it was like $150 an hour.
Okay.
That you pay for a PI, which is like at least 4 hours.
So people would come to you and go, hey, I think my partner's cheating. Can you follow them?
Yeah. We knew how to catch them. So.
Damn. You're all under their bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Just sound like.
Just with the camera.
Yeah, I jumped in once, but
oh my God.
No, we would tell. So we had like this guy come. It was 50-50 on guys and girls. So it's not like guys are the only ones cheating.
Whoa.
Women were actually.
Guys would come to the firm and be like, my bitch is cheating on me. Oh shit.
So we had this guy actually come to us. He owned like a bunch of liquor stores everywhere. This guy was like, multimillionaire, and starts dating this girl, and his friends keep warning her, saying, like, there's something shady about her. There's something wrong. We don't trust her.
Boy.
And he's like, I'm going to marry her. We're engaged. I love her. And I will take her side over your guys' side. So fuck you. And after a while, he's finally comes to us and says, you know what? I'm a little worried. I kind of want to look into it. What should I do? And we're like, okay, well, just tell her that you're leaving town for 2 weeks. Because if you tell her you're leaving town, she'll start cheating. It's like, it's way harder when you're in town.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes on a fake vacation, doesn't really leave LA. We follow her, and he had bought her a house in Marina Del Rey. Bought her a Mercedes, gave her, it's not like the money's everything, but he's taking care of her, getting ready to get married.
And he really loved this girl.
Totally loves her. And we start following her. She drives like a psycho. and I've been racing cars since I was a kid. Like, keeping up with her, like my heart would be racing.
Damn.
She would just get on the shoulder on the 405 when there's traffic and do 70, 80 down the shoulder. She just didn't give a shit about anything.
Vin Diesel, calm down. She's like Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, so we follow her, and the first place she goes is the Mercedes dealership. She like kind of circles around it. We're like, okay, she's going to Mercedes. She ends up parking a block up the hill for whatever reason, and then we zoom in on her, and you see her taking off her ring, puts it in her purse, and walks to the dealership. Drives out 2 hours later with another Mercedes from another guy. So
what was she like a high-end escort or something?
I mean, she's some kind of hoe, but
dead. Yeah. And so then what would happen? You would just give the guys or girls all the evidence, and then they would just present it. Guys wouldn't be there when they.
Well, in this case, we were. So usually we're not. Usually we give it to them and they do what they do. But this guy, he was a little nervous, and then she was taking martial arts at the time. So she had like
he's bruising. Like, she's gonna karate chop my balls off.
Well, we actually told him too. We're like, dude, she's a little crazy. She might say that you hit her, and she has all these bruises on her body all the time. We see it. Like, she gets beat up. So we went with him to the drop to the site where she lived, and she's there like partying with her friends, and he walks in, and he's like, honey, these are my friends. They're private investigators. We've been following you for a while now. And then we have pager cams So this is when pagers were like around. So
I'm like, pager cams.
Yeah, we had pager cams. So we're filming it just in case she does anything. And he's about to leave. And my cousin tells him, hey, if you want to get that, $1 million ring back, which it was something close to $1 million, like you should go back and get it now, or it's going to be hard to get. So he goes back in and grabs her hand and says, you don't deserve this. And like pulls it off like dramatically and leaves.
Wow.
And get your shit out of the house in 2 days or we will have it all taken out for you.
Did you, okay. This is my last private investigator question. Did you ever have it go wrong where someone saw you and they were like, why the fuck are you following me?
So I was sneaky. Like nobody ever caught me. My cousin was amazing, but he's been doing it for like
so long.
30
Of
years.
course, there's going to be some time.
He's been chased like, those semi trucks. Imagine how powerful they are. One without like a trailer behind it chased him to run him over and over like people's lawns, like where the police had to come actually arrest the guy. So he was trying to kill my cousin.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there have been those situations and like.
Have you ever been in a really dangerous situation with like guns and stuff?
No, I've always been okay. Even like I've had drug dealers come up to me when I'm parked in like, there's projects in Compton where I used to park at, but I was always good at getting out of it. I'm very like friendly. So, and I used to drive an ambulance there too. So I know the area and I'm like, oh no, I'm just hanging out here. My friend's over on like, in section B, blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, okay.
Drug dealers would come up to your car to try to sell you drugs?
Well, they're like,
or be like, what are you doing in our territory kind of thing?
They're like, what are you doing in a blacked out car?
Oh, they thought you were like cops or something.
Either cops or like competing drug dealers.
Okay, so you're doing this PI shit. Are you in medical school?
No, I was accepted. So I had gotten like my scholarships and all that kind of sorted out.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to go yet.
And then why plastic surgery?
Well, first I want to be a heart surgeon.
Oh.
Then I wanted to save lives. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to do head and neck cancer. So I go into head and neck cancer surgery, which is like it's ear, nose, and throat and head and neck cancer. And then I get to my third year. And my third year, I was in charge of the clinic and I had to tell people, hey, you have cancer. And when you tell someone they have cancer, they don't like it. And so I'm very sensitive. So as soon as I say that to somebody, I start to cry before they cry. Like if they start to feel something, and I was crying every day.
Oh my God. They're like, our doctor's crying. Like, I mean, I would too. That's horrible. That's like, And
I didn't realize like what was going on because I was just come home and I was used to working. I was at Columbia and Columbia is like, they kill you. So it's not like 16-hour days is like a joke. It's really nothing.
Right.
But I'd start getting tired more and more. And I'm like, why am I getting tired? It was so draining, crying every day, telling people they have cancer. And they come in, they're like, how can I have cancer? I've only been smoking 70 years. It's like, how does this happen? And oral sex doesn't give you cancer. And so that's how it was.
So you were like, this is depressing. I need to do something fun, like give people new faces.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know how to get out of it in my head. I'm like, I have to help people. And then I started thinking, okay, why not do the cancer reconstruction? So I started following the plastics guys and I'm like, you know what? I was doing plastics and facial plastics. And I'm like, I'm going to do reconstruction. Then halfway through the reconstruction, my learning, I realized I'm like, this free flap shit is easy where you take something from here and patch it there. I'm like, that's not artistic. And I realized the hardest thing I'd ever seen was a nose job. Out of any surgery, the hardest thing I could comprehend from a tummy tuck to breast to face, whatever it was, the nose job was the hardest.
Why is a nose job the hardest?
It's fickle. It's three-dimensional. It doesn't heal how you want it to. It's a floating structure that you're trying to stay still. And that's hovering off your face.
Is this just cartilage, this whole thing?
It's bone on the top, cartilage on the bottom, and different types of cartilage.
Okay, so I had recently done threading in my nose, and I saw you said on your page, don't do it. Look at my nose. See the bump?
Yeah. Shouldn't be there.
Don't ever fucking do it. I got a thread in my nose because I was like, I want a nose job. And like, I got my nose injected before and done all this stuff to like change the shape. Yeah. And they were like, oh, we can do it with threads. We can, raise the, make your nose look really straight. Right. And it looked great for like 2 weeks. And then I started developing cartilage around the bottom of the thread.
Yeah. We call them thread aches.
Thread aches?
Yeah. Thread aches.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'm going to get it. They were like, we can cut a hole in your nose and remove it. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that. So they're like going to try to melt it.
Oh, so they have a lot of good ideas. They also can't melt it. So.
I know. I'm supposed to go in because I'll be like, oh, we have this device where we can put like Forma, it's called, or Morpheus or something. They're like, we're going to try to.
Cute that they think.
Stop!
So, no,
I'm fucked.
Okay, so
I'm just going to have a giant fake pimple on my nose the rest of my life.
Well, yeah, if you're going to go somewhere where they're dumb enough to put a thread in your nose, the subsequent series of suggestions that they have might also be on the dumb side.
Okay, so what would you do to my nose?
Oh, well, at this point,
you like chop it off.
No, your nose is good. But at this point, you just got to let it go away. The only safe thing to do if you're trying to break tension in a thread is to put a needle in there and just snap it at a couple points.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just got to let it dissolve. And if it forms scar tissue, then you can inject some 5-FU or a steroid if needed.
Yeah, because I love this part, but then this happened and I was like, what is going on? Like, I feel like a bump. It's like a ball.
It's irritation, but it'll likely go without anything.
Yeah, so guys, don't get threads in your nose. Or actually, a girl who came in right after me who had her eyebrows lifted, and she had bumps on each side of her head that stuck out. And everyone's doing like the Bella Hadid, like they think, oh, I'll just get threads and it'll look great. And then she had 2 giant bumps, and she was having to do the same thing I did.
Yeah, it's the doctors who do.
Hold your mic closer.
The doctors who do, threads in the nose and the lip. They're not good, period.
Yeah.
Like, they're just not good doctors. Some decent doctors do it in the brow, but their standard is generally not as high as like mine. You know, if I look at beauty and I look at effectiveness of a procedure, I have standards. Like, it's got to be this good for me to do something. I'm not going to do it if it's going to produce a problem. So the brows are also not a good idea, but threads in the rest of the face, it's okay. But you can't do it repeatedly because it'll just cause a ton of scar tissue.
There you go. So what do you guys like recommend? And I know Robert, like I've just been talking to Ben the whole time, and Robert's here. He's got a more interesting Robert's Ben's partner. And I even went to a consultation with Robert because my husband calls me fat all the time and I started getting in my head. But my husband's used to being with girls that are like the size of my pinky, which I used to be. But then I got happy because we got married and I started eating sandwiches, and you know, you eat a lot of sandwiches and things happen.
Great. So you don't need.
Thanks, Robert. Actually, and that's just to show how professional they are. So I went to see Robert and he was like, you really don't have to do anything, maybe like exercise a little bit. And I was like, suck it out. And he's like, no, you should just exercise a little bit. Like, that's just it. I'm like,
even need that. You look good.
No, but that's like what I appreciate is that like not when people just want to like, you know, just do it for the sake of doing it. Is like, I really appreciated that. That was like amazing. And you know, you guys both do like crazy work. I mean, I've seen you do a lot of mommy makeovers. You remove breasts for people that are having like breast implant illness and that sort of thing. And how did you get into wanting to do this? And obviously, and you're like very fit. Like you're also like a trainer.
Not quite.
Here, hold it as close as you can.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay. You're like, why are you so ripped, Robert? Like, is it like all that lifting the abdomens,
no,
like all the fat that you're lifting all day? Yeah.
Have you seen his 6-pack photos?
I've seen his picture. I'm like, he's like the fittest doctor I've ever seen. Like, how do you have time to work out? I can't.
I know, I try to make a little time every day.
Look at you getting all shy. Don't be shy.
But the funny, like you were asking, like how I got into it. My story is almost like the opposite of Ben's, which is that like he had all this like circuitous route to get to point A to point B. And for me, if you'd asked me in junior year of high school what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would have said plastic surgeon, not really knowing.
Really?
Yeah, because it was like, for me, it was always about, I love working with my hands. I did a lot of art and sculpting and things of that nature. And I also like the sciences. So I'm just trying to figure out what would work best where I could combine all that stuff and get like kind of the instant gratification too, of like seeing something you can actually physically create and change. And I like making people happy. I like interacting and spending time with people. So it seemed like a really good way to go, plastic surgery. I kind of knew somebody in my local area that did it. I spent, a summer watching them do surgeries all summer.
Wow.
And as soon as I saw that, I'm like, this is what I want to do.
Like as a young person,
yeah,
you
went probably 16.
You were standing in on like boob
surgeries.
Jobs, nose jobs.
Yeah, he was doing like, it was mostly aesthetic surgery. And so I was like the whole gamut, and I got to see what it was. And I knew that was kind of what I was built to do. So for me, instead of like becoming a PI and then, becoming a race car driver and this and that, I basically just was single track mind. So college, med school, residency, fellowship, and then boom, in practice, but a little older than Ben. So I started in 2005 and then...
Doesn't look older than
I thought you were like 30.
I just turned 48 actually.
Okay, what kind of stuff are you doing on yourself? Because we need that information.
I thank my parents for some good genetics for that, I guess.
Okay, but I want to talk to you guys about like, is it scary the first time you're like cutting someone open? Like that has to be fucking terrifying. Can you imagine like you're like, even though they're out, but like just cutting through flesh and then here's the deal with that. And this actually, it's funny you say that because like literally
last week I was doing a surgery and when I was marking the patient getting ready for surgery, she looked at me, she's like, "Are you nervous at all?" And I'm like, I just started laughing because I'm like, "Do you get nervous when you get in your car to drive to work?" And she's like, "No." I'm like, "That's kind of like what it is for me. Like when I'm operating, it's so second nature now. I don't even, it's like breathing or driving or doing any of these things. You don't have to, I mean, you have to think about it. You have to be conscientious,
right.
But it's like built in,
you know what you're
20
doing.
years of just doing the same thing. But so when you're learning to be a surgeon, they don't just throw you in the OR and say, figure it out. You're going stepwise up the ladder. So you start with like doing very little things and watching a lot of stuff. And then you start doing a little bit more and watching less and doing more. And then as you get more and more experience, you start taking on harder and harder stuff. And it's the same thing in practice. As you get into private practice, that's the first time you're sort of alone without a safety net, which is the first time you're doing a surgery by yourself out of residency. It is a little nerve wracking because you know you don't have a backup plan. It's basically you or you're in trouble. So you need to know what you're doing. And then so most people will start to take on maybe a little bit more of the straightforward cases at first. And as you get more experience, you start taking on more and more complex stuff. So that's like with both Ben and myself, we both got extremely specialized in our areas of expertise where we're taking on the hardest cases. For me, it's like breast revision is probably the most difficult stuff, especially when you're dealing with, materials, implants, fat grafting, lifts, all these, like there's so many techniques I'll throw into given case. And you might have two totally different problems with each breast. And it's kind of like the equivalent of the redo rhinoplasties for Ben, where he might be taking cartilage from the ribs and the ears. And it's a very, very complicated surgery. And if you can do the really hard stuff, obviously the easier stuff is very straightforward for us.
Did you ever have like a really scary experience where you were like, oh fuck, like someone who just started randomly bleeding or anything like that?
I haven't had too many, thankfully I haven't had too many scary experiences. And I think I got a little lucky early in my career. I took on some cases that were much more challenging than I think I realized at the time. Like you don't know enough to know enough at that point. And so you're kind of maybe overextend yourself a little bit. So I got lucky in that the really hard cases I had the skill set to do, and they got progressively harder by luck. So by the time I started getting really aware of how dangerous and tricky these cases were, I already had a huge amount of experience under my belt where I wasn't really nervous anymore. Mm-hmm. So I've had a few cases where I was like in the case and I'm like, oh man, this is really hard to fix. But I never had a situation where I left the OR and I was unhappy with how things look. But sometimes it would take a lot of maneuvering to get there. And then now when I go to the OR, everything you kind of make things look easy once you have a lot of experience. Like somebody's watching you do a complicated case, like Ben doing a really tricky face or a rhinoplasty. You're like, oh, that's an easy case. Like, look how he's just kind of breezing through it. But it's because of your experience level that you're able to do that. You don't realize how many, like your brain is just kind of clicking along and all the algorithms. Okay, if this happens, I need to do this and this. And we're kind of able to just work it out during the surgery because we have all the tools to fix the problem. But if you don't have all the tools, that's like with the situation here, the expression, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. There's some surgeons who don't have the full range of experience, but they don't want to lose cases. So what they're going to do is they're going to shoehorn you into the techniques they know how to do. So I see stuff all the time where the wrong surgery is done to correct a problem. Mm-hmm. And it's because you kind of look at maybe do a little research and realize, well, the surgeon doesn't know how to do the surgery. So they might say, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. And just because a particular person doesn't know how to do it doesn't mean it can't be done. It's just they may not be the right person. So that's why I really wanted to specialize in what I do. So I don't really do a lot of face or I've done it.
You do mostly body.
I do breast and body because I wanted to get extremely, extremely deep in terms of my knowledge base and my techniques. And I think it's hard to be excellent at everything. I think if you subspecialize, you're going to get more depth and maybe less breadth. I still do a wide range of cases, as does Ben, but if he's doing neck up, I'm doing neck down. There's a lot of tricky things in both areas, and it's hard to know everything about everything. So I think the specialization does help.
I wanted to ask you about Brazilian butt lifts because there's been a lot of cases lately. I mean, every girl on TikTok, I don't know if you guys are on TikTok at all. There's a ton of girls on TikTok. You're on TikTok? Of course. She's on TikTok. I'm dead.
I'm about 20, 32 years old.
Get on TikTok. You're going to get on TikTok. So there's a lot of girls on there doing the BBL and they're doing their before and after. And then there's been a couple girls on there who passed away. And why is that? Why is it so? And everyone keeps going, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Why is a Brazilian butt lift so dangerous? Is it that dangerous or is it just if you don't know what you're doing?
Both. So it is a little bit of a higher risk surgery.
Why is that?
The numbers of like sometimes are quoted like 1 in 3,000 death rate. If you really parse through that data, I don't think it's totally accurate. I think it's probably less than that.
Did you say 1 in 3,000?
That was sort of that was some of the data out there on like some of the worst case analyses, but I don't think it's quite that bad.
Okay.
But it's still obviously a very concerning situation. So the reason people tend to have fatalities from, if they're going to, from that surgery is from what's called a fat embolus. So what's happening is you're liposuctioning fat out, then you're processing the fat to put back in as a fat graft.
Uh-huh.
And if you're doing it, like, for example, if I'm doing it in the breast, I'm doing sort of, maybe 100, 200, 300 at most cc's of fat volume in the breast. The blood vessels are pretty small there. It's very safe to put in. If you're doing the butt, some of these people are like, they want like a, like the really round, full look. They might be putting like 1,500 or more cc's per butt area. In the deeper tissue in the buttocks, the veins are really big. So it's not so hard, and the blood pressure in those veins is pretty low. So it's not so hard to get your cannula, which is the little kind of like the tube that you're injecting the fat with. You can puncture into a vein. And if you inject fat into the vein, that fat will go to the heart, to the lungs, and it can create an embolus. And you can't breathe properly. So that's where the danger from fat grafting comes. And then just beyond the that particular danger, which is obviously the most serious problem, just in general, buttock fat grafting, there's a lot of people who overdo it too much, and you're getting these very distorted looking patients where you look at it and you're like, that in no way could that occur in nature. It looks completely ridiculous. It's so overdone. And the problem is, as you see more of these overdone with any kind of surgery, once you see these really fake or artificial looks, and people keep seeing it over and over again, all of a sudden the consciousness becomes, well, that's normal. I want to look like that. And that's not where surgery should go. Surgery really should be trending towards a very natural look, like beautiful and ideal, but not like outside what you'd kind of normally expect to see.
Yeah, you don't want someone to look at you and go, I want that surgery.
Right.
Like, you want someone to look at you and go, I want to look as beautiful as that girl.
You look like a filter, and that's what's happening. People are starting to get this warped idea of what they should look like, and it's creating a lot of body dysmorphia, or on a lower scale, maybe just dissatisfaction with how they look when they look perfectly fine, perfectly normal. You're like a mild, like when you came in, you saw me and you're like, oh, my thighs didn't really bother me. I'm like,
happening to you.
It's happening to me because I was born with clubbed feet. So I had casts put on my legs really young. So I've always had a lot of heavy thighs. Cause like when I was little, I was in casts. So till I was like older, a little bit older, and my thighs grew really muscular from like dragging my legs kind of. And so my thighs have always been heavier. Now that I don't work out or run really, like they just got kind of like not as nice. And so I was like, Robert, can you suck all my fat out of my thighs? He's like, why don't you go for a walk and like drink some water?
You look better than normal. Okay, better than average. And even average is fine, but you look great as is.
I love it.
And the problem is, when somebody's already looking pretty good, you have to be very, very careful that you don't then make them actually look worse. And I can't tell you how many patients I've seen for breast revision surgery who come in, they've had 8, 10, 12 prior surgeries. They've spent literally sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they look way worse than they did before they started the process. And they cry and they say, I don't know why I ever did this in the first place. And then, I do my best to put them back to normal. In a lot of cases, I can really fix them, but it's like so much wasted anguish, time, money, years sometimes where they won't show I've had patients who haven't dated for years because they've been too self-conscious.
What's like the worst case you've seen of boobs?
I've seen a few really bad ones. So one really weird one that's on my website that you might have seen was a patient who went to multiple surgeons. And then the last guy she went to was a friend of hers, was an ER doctor who didn't have any true surgical training. And people think like this is easy surgery, and it's not. It's very complicated. So he wanted to get her breast implants closer together. So in doing that, he completely dissected off the muscle. And so the whole muscle flipped below the implant. So when she'd flex, the implant would move up like that.
Like on top of her chest?
It was like kind of almost coming up to her neck and in the middle. It was the weirdest thing. So this implant was way down off to the side, and this one was kind of moving up like this. So I had to completely flip the muscle back up and do all this complicated revision work with reinforcement materials and all that. That was a bad one. The worst ones, I think, are where patients have too much tissue removed where you can't fix it without doing like some kind of flap or some kind of very cancer type surgery to move tissue around, which creates a lot of scarring and that kind of stuff. So there are some irreversibly damaged breasts where you can make them better, but you can't totally fix them. And you can just trace back where this all started. And a lot of times it's basically cutting corners. You see a lot of bad stuff from patients traveling overseas to get cheaper, or overseas or, out of the country to get cheap surgery. And cheap means corners are being cut. So it just blows my mind. You get one body, you can't, it's not like this is not the time to try to cut corners. This is the time to go for quality and make sure that whoever's doing it has a maximum level of expertise. Because even in the best of hands, you can get complications, but you're minimizing that risk when you're going to a well-qualified surgeon. I mean, this is like a prime example. Like you see like horrible face stuff, and Ben can fix that stuff. But if you go to him in the first place,
You won't
you're
have
not
to
going to
deal
have a problem,
with it.
you know?
Yeah, I've seen, like, you have to go to their pages, guys. They do amazing work. We're going to take a really quick break and we'll be right back with Ben Talei and Robert Cohen on Worse First. Stay tuned. Ladies or men or whoever's looking for a gift for their men, this is the perfect time to gift the men in your life with Manscaped. We got you covered because it's Father's Day, which means you have the opportunity to give the best gift of all, the new Lawnmower 4.0 body trimmer with the ultra smooth package. Whether you're shopping for your dad, your husband, your boyfriend, your brother, or the father of your pup, all of them need someone like you to give them the gift of grooming and hygiene. You know that. Manscaped has all the right tools to get the job done quickly, safely, and hygienically. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer is now available in the USA and Canada. It's optimized so that the trimmer is waterproof so your man can groom in the shower and not have to worry about cleaning up the mess on the bathroom floor. This 7,000 RPM trimmer features skin-safe technology to help reduce manscaping accidents. It also includes a new multifunction on-off switch, which can engage a travel lock created for men on the go and gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off for a more clean and precise shave. So you can see what you're doing, first of all. So what do you get? You get 20% off just for listening to this podcast with the code WORST, WORST, at manscaped.com. Again, that's manscaped.com with the code WORST, WORST, for 20% off your Lawnmower 4.0 to be the best daughter, son, boyfriend, uncle, whatever, in the life of your man this Father's Day. Manscaped.com, worst at checkout for 20% off, plus free shipping. It's dad bod season. Time to get those bodies smooth. Enjoy. We all want perfect hair, let's be honest. Is it possible? Well, who knows? But there's this new company called Prose to help you find out. What is Prose? Well, Prose creates customized hair care products for people, not hair types. So you'll never have to compromise on your healthy hair goals because every product's formula is made with you in mind, not just a bunch of the same people as you. Their freshly made to go order products are designed to transform your hair through seasonal styles and lifestyle changes. Prose creates custom shampoos and conditioners based on your personal hair analysis and their algorithm. They have an online quiz which dives into every conceivable factor that affects your hair health. With over 50 billion formula combinations, the result will be a unique blend of ingredients that caters specifically to every strand of every follicle on your head. Prose stands by clean and responsible beauty. Every formula is sustainably sourced and cruelty-free. Prose can accommodate virtually any preference, including vegan, gluten-free, and more. The customization experience goes beyond the initial quiz. With every order, Prose optimizes the formulas based on lifestyle and the changes that you're going through with your hair. Every bottle is made to order specifically for you with your name on it, saying everything that's inside of it and guaranteeing optimal freshness. And what do you get? You get 15% off just for listening to this podcast. If you head over to Prose, PROSE.com/worst, you will get 15% off your first Prose order. And you get to take their hair quiz completely for free, an in-depth quiz that asks you everything that you would possibly ever wonder about your hair so that they can formulate the great one-of-a-kind narrative for your story. I got this from them. They created a customized dry shampoo for me. They customized a hair care product for me. I have really dry hair, so my stuff had fermented rice water on it to help my hair grow, scalp soothing with tea tree oil, a scalp detox with menthol, a sebum control with white clay, and scalp soothing with aloe vera juice. And I have to tell you right now, I feel like my hair is growing faster than ever, which is amazing because my hair grows really slowly. So it tells you when it's been bottled and when it's best used by. So if you are interested in your own products customized for your hair, head over to Prose, PROSE.com/worst to get your free in-depth hair quiz and 15% off today. Okay, we're back. My whole face is filler and everyone knows that. And I don't mind talking about it because my face used to be shaped like a jalapeno. Like I'm completely open about that because my face was so angular and thin and gaunt. And I don't know why, like no matter how much weight I gained, my face never gained weight. And I always looked very gaunt and very like unwell. And so my girlfriend was like, why don't you go and get some filler? Like it'll balance your face. And then everyone thinks I had my whole face plastic surgery, but really just had filler. It's not surgery. It's just filler. And so you've told me recently, or you said on your page that it's getting too much filler doesn't really go away.
Yeah. So filler, the main one that we use is hyaluronic acid. They're these gels that you inject into the face made from like a fermentation from bacteria, but it's a gel.
Oh, great.
That
bacteria face.
It's a bacteria face.
Good old bacteria face.
Yeah. And it's benign in general, but like everyone thinks it just goes away because they're like, okay, every 6 months it goes away. Or we did a study where 2 years later it was clinical effect was gone. So it lasts 2 years. And the intent of these studies is not to see whether or not it dissolves. It's to see how long it lasts because people want something that's long lasting financially and for the benefit of their face. But what happens is these are bioactive fillers. You put it in the face, your face reacts to it, and not all of it dissolves, or sometimes all of it stays. So from the impermanence, it could be 0% permanent or 100% permanent. It's
depending on your body.
Yeah. And it's almost never 0.
Right.
It's almost never 100. It's somewhere in that range that you'll keep fillers. And so people get something called filler fatigue. Filler fatigue means your face is getting tired of the shit. It's like you're putting too much. It keeps clogging up the channels that drain your face. So your face starts to act differently. It doesn't move well anymore. Your face starts to get more stiff and people talk like this. Their lip gets kind of flaccid and doesn't move.
Me in 2 years.
I'm all,
welcome back to the podcast, Ben. Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. So people turn into like,
I don't get it anymore.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
And there's people who are in Beverly Hills who are like talented. Supposedly they're fucking horrible, I think. But
oh no.
And they're the ones doing this and they're dysmorphic themselves, the doctors.
Yeah.
So there's one that we call the beast maker, or I call her the beast maker, and she just makes everybody look like a beast.
You have to tell me who it is after.
I'll tell you after.
I know you're not going to say it on here.
Yeah. And I'll fix someone's lips entirely and I'll just dissolve everything out of it, make it look beautiful, fix it. And then they go to the beast maker and the beast maker, boom, like just jacks it all up again. And so the doctors or the injectors themselves are dysmorphic. They have a dysmorphic eye. So they don't know what looks good. So they keep filling the face with shit and it gets bigger. It stops moving and it's not great. And I have patients come in who just come to me too. And they're like, I want more. I want more. I want more of this. I want more of this. And I'm like, what are you chasing? I'm like, you're chasing some kind of like filtered face that is not supposed to exist on a human. And you have to try to tell them. And so I have patients who come in. I have this one patient. I have no nice way to say, hey, your face is jacked. Like there's no, you can't just say it. So I tell her, I go, listen, what I'm seeing right now is you've got a gun pointed to your head. You've got a big problem. You got a gun pointed to your head and you keep pointing at this one thing that is meaningless. It's like you have a gun pointed to your head and someone's poking you with a toothpick and all you're talking about is the fucking toothpick.
Oh no.
And I'm like, but there's a gun pointed at your head.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is your jacked up.
And you can't fix her? You can't dissolve like her whole face? Or
I can. I don't want to because then they blame you for everything.
Oh, because then people are like, because then these people get so, and I have girlfriends like this who get so psycho with this like crazy plastic looking face that when you tell them to dissolve it, and I've had a girlfriend who had her whole like pretty much dissolved and she looked great and normal. And then she freaked out and she like yelled at the doctor and was like, you ruined my face, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, girl, you look so good. Like she looked beautiful, but she got so used to looking so swollen and inflated that when they took everything away, she's like, I look so old. And I'm like, no, you look beautiful. And then she went and re-had it all done. And she goes on this constant cycle, dissolving, refilling, dissolving, refilling. And it's like,
and it's so they get used to seeing themselves a certain way. And this is a type of dysmorphia. And they in general are either used to it or they have bad